The observation deck of Outpost Zeta 9 was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Officer Trill stared at his screen, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he processed the unusual readings. "Sir, I'm detecting an unknown vessel approaching our border," Trill reported, his voice betraying a hint of concern. Admiral Vex looked up from his command console. With blue-gray skin and an imposing ridge of bony plates running from his forehead to the back of his neck, Vex had spent 50 cycles in service to the Galactic Hegemony. He had seen everything, or so he thought. "Show me," he ordered, moving to Trill's station with practiced grace despite his massive frame. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a small ship moving at sublight speed toward their border. Its design was unlike anything in the Hegemony database. Blocky, inefficient, with visible weld marks and exposed heat sinks. "Is that primitive?" Vex asked, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Yes, Admiral. Based on our scans, this vessel appears to be from the species known as humans. They achieved FTL travel only 20 cycles ago." Vex waved a dismissive hand. "Humans, those bites from the backwater system. They're hardly worth our attention." The Galactic Hegemony ruled over 300 star systems with unquestioned authority. Their technology was the pinnacle of achievement, their military might unmatched across known space. New species were either welcomed as subjects or crushed if they resisted. It was the way of things. "The vessel is transmitting a message, sir," Trill said. "It appears to be a greeting in several languages." "Put together a first contact team," Vex decided. "Senior Envoy Trax should lead it. Let's see what these humans want before they blunder into our territory." Aboard the HSS Defiant, Captain Robert Mason paced the bridge. The Defiant was humanity's newest deep space exploration vessel, designed to make first contact with other civilizations. After centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, humans had spent the last 20 years eagerly exploring the stars. "Any response to our greeting, Lieutenant?" Mason asked. Communications Officer Lisa Bell shook her head. "Nothing yet, Captain. But our sensors show increased activity on that station. I think they noticed us." Mason nodded, running a hand through his short brown hair. At 45, he was considered one of Earth's most experienced space captains, though that wasn't saying much. Humanity was new to the galactic neighborhood. "Keep broadcasting our peaceful intentions. Let's show them humans know how to be good neighbors." Chief Science Officer Alan Park approached with a tablet. "Captain, our scans of the alien outpost are complete. Their technology is, well, it's centuries beyond ours. The energy readings alone suggest power generation methods we've only theorized about." Mason whistled. "Well, let's hope they're friendly, then." "Captain," Bell called out suddenly, "we're detecting a small vessel launching from the station. It's heading straight for us." The bridge crew tensed. Humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien civilization was moments away. "Maintain position," Mason ordered. "Keep weapons powered down. Let's not give them any reason to think we're hostile." Senior Envoy Trax reviewed the preliminary data on humans as his diplomatic shuttle approached the alien vessel. Humans were an unusual species, short-lived but remarkably adaptable. They had progressed from primitive technology to space travel in less than 2,000 years, a pace that concerned some hegemony analysts. "Remember," Trax addressed his team of 4 diplomats and 2 security officers, "these humans are new to space. They may not understand proper protocol. Our job is to assess their intentions and determine if they can be peacefully integrated into the hegemony." The shuttle's pilot called out, "Approaching the human vessel now, Envoy. Their design is most unusual." Trax looked through the view screen at the human ship. It was indeed strange. Practical rather than elegant, with visible modifications and repairs. Unlike the sleek, biologically inspired designs of hegemony vessels, this ship looked like it had been built by beings who brute forced their way into space. "Open a communication channel using the translation matrix," Trax ordered. The communications officer complied. but frowned. "Sir, there seems to be an issue with the translation. Their language structure is peculiar." "Do your best," Trax said. "Tell them we come in peace." On the Defiant, alarms suddenly blared. "Captain, the alien shuttle is emitting some kind of energy beam directed at us," shouted Security Chief Morgan Jones. "Is it a weapon?" Mason demanded. I don't think so," Park replied, studying his instruments. "The energy signature doesn't match any weapon profile. It might be a communication attempt, but it's interfering with our systems." Lisa Bell gripped her console. "Captain, our translation computer is going haywire. It's interpreting their message as a threat." "A threat? Are you sure?" Mason asked. "The computer is translating their message as prepare for subjugation, but there must be an error in the matrix," Bell explained, fingers flying over her keyboard. Before Mason could respond, the ship's automated defense system, detecting what it interpreted as a hostile scan, activated. A warning shot, really just a low-powered energy pulse, fired automatically. "Weapons just fired," Jones shouted in disbelief. The automated defense system activated. Mason's face paled. "Override. Shut it down now." But it was too late. The warning pulse, harmless by human military standards, struck the alien shuttle's hull. To everyone's horror, the seemingly advanced vessel flickered and then exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Silence fell over the Defiance bridge. What just happened?" Mason whispered. Park checked his readings, hands shaking. "Their hull. It must have been made of some material that resonated catastrophically with our energy pulse. Captain, they're gone." Back at Outpost Zeta 9, Admiral Vex watched in stunned silence as the diplomatic shuttle was destroyed. The human's primitive weapon had somehow penetrated the shuttle's advanced shields, as if they weren't even there. "Impossible," he breathed. Officer Trill's voice shook as he reported, "All hands lost, Admiral. The human vessel is powering its engines." Vex's shock quickly transformed into cold fury. "They lured us in with talk of peace, then struck without warning. These humans are more dangerous than we thought." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the High Command. Tell them we've encountered a hostile species with weapons capable of bypassing our shields. Request a battle fleet immediately." Looking back at the screen where the human vessel was quickly retreating, Vex narrowed his eyes. "They've made a grave mistake. The hegemony will not suffer such an insult. We will crush these humans before they become a true threat." Captain Mason gave the order all captains dread: maximum speed back to Earth. "We need to warn them." His voice was steady despite the chaos of the moment. "This was a terrible accident, but those aliens won't know that. We need to prepare." As the Defiance engines pushed to their limits, Mason stared out at the stars. Humanity's first contact had gone catastrophically wrong, not through malice, but through misunderstanding and technological incompatibility. "How long until we reach Earth?" he asked quietly. 3 days at maximum speed, Captain," the navigator replied. "And how long before they follow us?" Mason wondered aloud, though no one had an answer. In the vastness of space, the Defiant raced home, carrying news that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Behind them, the machinery of an interstellar war was already beginning to turn. 3 months had passed since the disastrous first contact. The stars outside Fleet Commander Corrin's flagship gleamed cold and distant as he surveyed the holographic display of the approaching human solar system. "Status report," Corrin demanded, his gray-scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the bridge displays. Strategic Officer Mech stepped forward, her thin fingers tapping on a datapad. "The invasion fleet is in perfect formation, Commander. 32 warships, including our flagship, the Invincible. We will reach the human system in 6 hours." Corrin nodded with satisfaction. The galactic hegemony had not ruled 300 star systems by being lenient with threats. The destruction of their diplomatic shuttle demanded a swift and decisive response. "What do we know about human defenses?" Corin asked. Science Officer Laura approached, her 4 eyes blinking nervously. "Based on our intelligence, humans have only basic orbital defenses around their homeworld. Their technology is at least 200 cycles behind ours. They have no formal military fleet, just exploration and trading vessels." Corin let out a sound that passed for laughter among his species. "This will be over quickly, then. Their primitive weapons won't even scratch our shields." Laura hesitated before speaking again. "There is one strange report, Commander. Our long-range scouts detected unusual activity in the outer reaches of their solar system. The humans appear to be building something." "Building what?" "We're not certain. The readings were unclear." Corin dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "It doesn't matter. No species at their technological level could build anything in 3 months that would threaten this fleet." The bridge crew returned to their stations, confident in their coming victory. The humans would soon learn the price of defying the hegemony. In the command center beneath Earth's surface, General James Wilson studied the incoming reports with a grim expression. Around him, military officers from a dozen nations worked frantically at their stations. "They're coming," Wilson announced to the room. "The alien fleet will reach our system in 6 hours." The news was met with tense silence. Humanity had spent the past 3 months preparing for this moment, ever since the HSS Defiant had returned with news of the disastrous first contact. Colonel Anna Foster, Wilson's second-in-command, spoke up. "Is the Titan ready?" Wilson nodded slowly. "As ready as it can be, given the time constraints. It's our only chance." "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "Captain Miller is on the line from the Titan." Wilson moved to the communication station and accepted the call. The face of Kate Miller, former mining colony administrator and now captain of humanity's first true warship, appeared on screen. "General." Miller greeted him, dark circles under her eyes betraying the sleepless months of preparation. "Final systems check is complete. The Titan is operational." "Operational isn't the same as battle-ready, Captain," Wilson reminded her. Miller's tired face broke into a determined smile. "No, sir, it isn't. But it's the best we got. The crew is ready. We know what's at stake." Wilson nodded. "Godspeed, Captain. All of humanity is counting on you." As the call ended, Foster moved to Wilson's side. "Do you think it will work?" she asked quietly. Wilson stared at the tactical display, showing the approaching alien fleet. "It has to." Fleet Commander Corin was reviewing the invasion plan when alarms blared across the bridge of the Invincible. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting a massive object at the edge of the human system." "Show me," Corin ordered. The main view screen shifted to show a distant object silhouetted against the darkness of space. As the sensors focused, the bridge crew fell silent in disbelief. The object was enormous, several kilometers long. Its shape was irregular, like nothing in the hegemony design archives. It appeared to be cobbled together from different structures, with visible seams and mismatched sections. "What is that?" Corin demanded. Science Officer Laura studied her readings, mandibles clicking in confusion. "It appears to be a ship, Commander. A human ship." "Impossible," Corin snapped. "Humans don't have the technology to build vessels of that size." Laura zoomed in on different sections of the strange craft. "It's not built from scratch, Commander. It looks like they've connected various structures together, what appear to be mining platforms, space stations, cargo haulers, all retrofitted and joined together." Strategic Officer Mech laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "They've made a junkyard creation and called it a warship. This is what they send against us." Corin wasn't laughing. "Size alone doesn't make it a threat, but we should not underestimate them." "What weapons do they have?" "Scanning," Laura replied. After a moment, she continued, "This is strange. I'm detecting what appear to be mining lasers, but they've been modified. There are also large magnetic accelerator tubes that might be weapons, though they resemble ore processors. They've turned mining equipment into weapons, Mech asked incredulously. It would appear so, Laura confirmed. Corin considered this information. It doesn't matter what they've cobbled together. Nothing in their technological arsenal can penetrate our shields. Prepare the fleet for engagement. Aboard the HS Titan, Captain Kate Miller stood on the bridge of what was surely the strangest warship ever created. Around her, the crew worked at stations that had been hastily installed in what used to be the administrative center of a mining platform. "They've spotted us," Tactical Officer Jack Reed announced, a former video game designer who had been recruited for his unconventional thinking. Reed had spent the last 3 months helping transform mining systems into weapons. "Good," Miller replied. "That was the plan. Let them get a good look at us." Through the view screen, she could see the approaching alien fleet, sleek, elegant ships that spoke of centuries of advanced engineering. They made the Titan look like exactly what it was, a desperate creation built by a species fighting for its survival. "All stations report," Miller ordered. "Engineering ready," came the voice of Tom Wilson, a brilliant mining engineer who had pioneered new power routing methods to make the Titan functional. "The reactors are stable, but remember we can't push them past 80% for more than 10 minutes. "Weapons ready," Reed reported. "Mining lasers charge, magnetic accelerators loaded with the special packages, life support functioning." Another voice called out, "Those sections C through F still have pressure inconsistencies." Miller nodded. This cobbled-together vessel was humanity's best hope, a ship that should not exist, built by a species that refused to surrender. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Miller ordered. Communications Officer David Lee worked his console. "Channel open, Captain." Miller straightened her shoulders. "This is Captain Kate Miller of the human spaceship Titan. We know why you've come. We regret the loss of your diplomatic vessel, but it was a tragic accident caused by translation errors. We request peaceful dialogue." The response came quickly, a harsh, clicking language translated by their computers into English. "This is Fleet Commander Corin of the Galactic Hegemony. Your primitive deception will not save you. Surrender your world immediately or face total destruction." Miller looked around at her crew, engineers, miners, scientists, and civilians who had worked impossibly hard to create this vessel. None of them were trained for war, but each was ready to fight for their world. "All hands," Miller announced shipwide, "battle stations. This is what we built the Titan for. Let's show them what humans can do." As the Hegemony fleet approached in perfect formation, the impossible human ship moved to meet them. The Battle of Sol was about to begin. The distance between the two fleets closed rapidly. On the bridge of the Invincible, Fleet Commander Corin watched with growing anticipation as the human vessel grew larger on the main view screen. "The human ship is maintaining course directly toward us," Strategic Officer Mech reported. "No evasive maneuvers. No sign they understand proper space combat tactics." "As expected," Corin replied confidently. "Prepare main weapons. Target their central section. One hit should be enough to show them the futility of resistance." The Hegemony fleet moved into attack formation with practiced precision. 32 warships, arranged in a 3-dimensional pattern designed to focus firepower while minimizing exposure to enemy weapons. It was a formation that had won hundreds of battles across the galaxy. "All ships report ready, Commander," Mech announced. Corin leaned forward in his command chair. "Fire." Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the Hegemony vessels, converging on the massive human ship. The bridge crew watched, expecting to see the patchwork vessel break apart under their assault. Instead, something unexpected happened. "Commander," Science Officer Laura called out in surprise. "The human ship has some kind of shield technology." On the view screen, a flickering blue barrier had appeared around the Titan, absorbing much of the Hegemony attack. The shield wasn't perfect, parts of it failed under the assault, and several beams struck the hull, leaving glowing impact points. But the ship remained intact. Impossible, Corin hissed. They shouldn't have shield technology. It's not like our shields, Laura explained quickly. It appears to be some kind of magnetic field, similar to what might be used in mining operations to contain plasma. They've adapted it as a defensive measure. Before Corin could respond, the massive human vessel changed. Sections of its irregular hull shifted, revealing what looked like modified mining equipment. They're returning fire, Mech warned. On the Titan's bridge, Captain Miller gripped her command console as the ship shuddered under the alien attack. Shields holding at 62%, Reed reported. 3 hull breaches in sections T, F, and K repair teams responding. Return fire, Miller ordered. Let's see if Tom's modifications work. Reed nodded and activated the weapons systems. Throughout the massive ship, former mining lasers, now supercharged and focused to military specifications, powered up. The magnetic accelerators, originally designed to launch containers of ore, prepared to fire their new payload. Firing pattern Alpha, Reed called out. The Titan unleashed its first volley. Instead of firing directly at the alien vessels, the repurposed mining lasers targeted points in space around the hegemony ships, creating a web-like pattern. On the Invincible, alarms blared as sensors detected the strange attack pattern. They're missing, Mech said in confusion. Their targeting systems must be primitive. Science officer Laura wasn't so sure. Wait, those aren't random points. They're creating a geometric pattern around our fleet. Suddenly, the space between the energy beams seemed to warp and distort. Several hegemony ships reported drive system fluctuations. What's happening? Corin demanded. The humans are using their mining lasers to heat plasma in specific patterns, Laura explained, her 4 eyes wide with realization. They're creating localized distortions in space that are interfering with our engines. Before Corin could process this information, the human ship launched its second attack. The magnetic accelerators fired, sending hundreds of small objects toward the hegemony fleet. Incoming projectiles, Mech warned. Minimal threat. Our shields will. The projectiles detonated before reaching the hegemony shields, releasing clouds of metallic dust that spread quickly through space. As the dust made contact with the energy shields of the hegemony vessels, it created numerous small electrical arcs and feedback loops. Shields weakening, Mech reported in alarm. The dust is creating interference patterns in our shield matrix. Corin could hardly believe what he was seeing. These humans, with their primitive technology, had found a way to counter the hegemony's most advanced defensive systems. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Recalibrate shields and prepare for another attack. Aboard the Titan, a cheer went up as the crew saw their weapons having an effect on the alien fleet. It's working, Reed exclaimed. Their shields are fluctuating. Miller allowed herself a small smile. Good. Tom, how are our power levels? From engineering, Tom Wilson's stressed voice came through. We're at 73% and holding, but these reactors weren't designed for combat. We need to be careful. Understood, Miller replied. Jack, prepare the next attack sequence. As Reed worked at his tactical station, Miller studied the alien fleet. They were regrouping, adapting to the human attack strategies. The element of surprise wouldn't help them much longer. Captain, Communications Officer Lee called out. I'm detecting unusual transmissions from the alien fleet. I think they're confused. Good, Miller said. Confusion works in our favor. Let's give them something else to think about. Activate maneuvering system. The massive Titan, despite its size and patchwork construction, began to move in ways that defied conventional space tactics. Instead of the clean, predictable patterns used by most space vessels, the Titan moved erratically, sections of the ship rotating independently to present different weapons angles. On the Invincible, the hegemony officers watched in bewilderment as the human ship performed maneuvers that should have torn it apart. How are they moving like that? Mech asked. Their ship structure shouldn't allow for such movements. Laura studied her readings. They've installed independent thruster systems on different sections. Each part can move semi-independently within structural limits. It's ingenious in a crude way. Corin growled in frustration. Enough of this. All ships focus fire on their central section. Maximum power. The hegemony fleet regrouped and unleashed another coordinated attack. This time, the barrage overwhelmed sections of the Titan's makeshift shields. Energy beams cut into the human vessel, causing explosions and venting atmosphere. "We've got them now," Corin said with satisfaction. But the human ship didn't break apart as expected. Instead, damaged sections sealed themselves off while others continued fighting. "Commander," Laura said slowly, "I believe their ship was designed with the expectation of taking damage. Each section can operate independently." "That's insane," Mech protested. "No rational shipbuilder would design a vessel expecting it to be partially destroyed." "These humans don't think like us," Laura replied. The Titan shuddered violently as the alien weapons found their mark. Miller was thrown from her chair as emergency sirens wailed throughout the ship. "Damage report," she called out, pulling herself back to her station. "Sections M through P are gone," Reed reported grimly. "Emergency bulkheads engage. We've lost the starboard mining laser array and 2 magnetic accelerators." Miller accessed the ship's status display. Nearly a quarter of the massive vessel was either destroyed or severely damaged, but the rest continued to function. "Casualties?" she asked, dreading the answer. 23 confirmed dead, 47 injured, 17 missing, Lee reported, his voice tight. Miller took a deep breath. Each loss was devastating, but they had known the risks. Rear out power from the damaged sections. "Tom, how are the reactors holding?" "I've had to shut down 2 of them," Wilson reported from engineering. "The others are stable for now, but we're down to 58% power capacity." Miller made a quick decision. "Implement attack pattern Omega. Let's show them what humans do when backed into a corner." Reed looked up from his console, eyes wide. "Captain, are you sure? That's a one-way maneuver." "I'm sure," Miller replied firmly. "Do it." As the hegemony fleet moved in for what they thought would be the killing blow, the human ship did something no space tactician would ever consider rational. The Titan deliberately broke itself apart. "Commander," Mech shouted in alarm. "The human vessel is disintegrating." Corin rose from his chair, watching in disbelief as the massive human ship split into 5 large sections, each moving independently. "Have we destroyed it?" he asked. "No," Laura replied, studying her sensors. "This is deliberate. They've separated their vessel into component sections. Each one is still powered and operational." Before the hegemony fleet could adjust to this new development, the 5 sections of the Titan accelerated in different directions, each targeting a separate group of hegemony ships. "Evasive maneuvers," Corin ordered, but it was too late. The battle had entered a new phase, and the hegemony's carefully coordinated fleet tactics were now facing a type of chaos they had never trained for. As his ship rocked from a direct hit by one of the human vessel sections, Corin realized with growing dread that this would not be the quick victory he had promised. The humans fought like no other species the hegemony had ever encountered. The Battle of Sol had only just begun. Chaos enveloped the space around Earth as the 5 sections of the Titan engaged the hegemony fleet. What had begun as a simple punishment mission for the aliens had transformed into the most confusing battle in recent hegemony history. Fleet Commander Corin stood on the bridge of the Invincible, watching as his carefully organized formation broke apart to deal with the multiple threats. 3 hegemony vessels were already severely damaged, their perfect shields overcome by the humans' unpredictable tactics. "This makes no sense," Corin growled. "How are they doing this?" Science Officer Laura worked frantically at her station, analyzing the battle data. "Commander, I need to show you something." She transferred her findings to the main display. The screen showed a detailed scan of one of the Titan's sections as it engaged a hegemony cruiser. "Look here," Laura pointed. The humans are constantly rerouting power throughout their ship sections. When our weapons target one area, they shut it down and redirect energy elsewhere. It's like fighting an opponent who can change their vital organs at will. Strategic Officer Mech joined them at the display. That's impossible. No ship design could allow for such flexibility. Their ships aren't designed like ours, Laura explained. We build our vessels to exact specifications, with each system optimized for its function. The humans, they've built redundancies, alternative pathways, manual overrides. Their ship is inefficient by our standards, but incredibly adaptable. Corin's mandibles clicked in frustration. I want answers. How did a species this primitive develop such tactics? I may have found something, Laura said, displaying another screen. I've been analyzing our database on human history. Their evolution is unusual. The display showed images of Earth and its diverse environments. Most spacefaring species evolved on worlds with stable environments, Laura continued. But humans come from a planet with extreme environmental variations. Deserts, ice caps, jungles, oceans. Their world has experienced multiple extinction events, yet life persisted. She switched to images of early humans. Unlike most sentient species, humans didn't evolve natural defenses like claws, armor, or venom. Instead, they developed intelligence and tool-making. Their entire evolutionary history has been about adapting, repurposing, and solving problems. So what? Mech asked impatiently. So, Laura explained, while we've spent centuries perfecting our existing technology, humans have spent millennia learning to improvise. When faced with a threat, they don't follow standard protocols. They innovate. Corin stared at the battle unfolding outside. You're saying we're not fighting against human technology. We're fighting against human adaptability. Exactly, Laura confirmed. And there's more. According to intercepted communications, they built the Titan in just 3 months after the first contact incident. 3 months? Mech exclaimed. That's impossible. Not for humans, apparently, Laura replied. They cannibalized existing structures, repurposed mining technology, and worked around the clock. What they lack in technological advancement, they'd make up for in speed and creativity. As if to emphasize her point, the ship rocked from another impact. The battle was not going well. In the heart of Section Alpha, what had once been the Titan's bridge, Captain Miller coordinated the divided ship's attack. The separation had been a desperate measure, but it was working better than expected. Section Charlie reports their reactor is approaching critical, Lee relayed. They're requesting permission to execute final protocol. Miller closed her eyes briefly. Final protocol meant a deliberate overload, sacrificing the section to damage as many enemy ships as possible. Tell them to proceed, she ordered, and make sure the crew evacuates to the emergency pods. Reed looked up from his tactical display. Enemy fleet is regrouping. I think they're adapting to our strategies. They were bound to eventually, Miller acknowledged. Time for Phase 2. Signal sections Bravo and Delta to implement the stealth approach. As she gave the order, Miller noticed something strange on one of the sensor displays. What's that? Near the alien flagship. Reed studied his screens. Looks like one of their smaller vessels is breaking formation, Captain. Moving away from the battle. Miller frowned. Track it. That's not a normal tactical movement. Lieutenant Dax had served the hegemony loyally for 15 cycles. As an intelligence officer aboard the scout ship Observer, his role in this mission had been to analyze human combat tactics and report weaknesses. But what he had seen in the past 2 hours had changed everything. Course set for the dark side of the human moon, he told his small crew of 5. Maintain communications blackout. Sir, his navigator questioned, these aren't our orders. The fleet commander hasn't authorized withdrawal. This isn't withdrawal, Dax replied firmly. It's information gathering. I need a better vantage point to observe the human tactics. It wasn't entirely a lie. Dax did want to observe, but not for the reasons his crew believed. What he had seen today had shaken his faith in hegemony superiority. These humans, using technology centuries behind their own, had fought the mighty hegemony to a standstill. As the observer moved away from the main battle, Dax accessed his private terminal and began compiling all the data he had collected on human innovation and adaptability. The hegemony leadership needed to understand what they were really facing. And if they wouldn't listen, well, Dax was beginning to think the humans deserved to know exactly what they were up against. Back on the Invincible, Corin was forced to make a difficult decision. "Order all ships to regroup at coordinates Alpha 7, he commanded. "We need to reassess our strategy." "You're ordering a retreat, Commander?" Mech asked in disbelief. "A tactical repositioning," Corin corrected harshly. "This enemy doesn't fight according to any known doctrine. We need to adapt our approach." As the hegemony ships began to pull back to the designated coordinates, Laura continued her analysis of human history and biology. What she found only deepened her fascination. "Commander, I've discovered something remarkable about human physiology," she reported. "Their bodies are much less specialized than most sentient species. They can survive in a wider range of environments, eat a greater variety of foods, and recover from injuries that would kill most species." "How is this relevant to the battle?" Corin asked impatiently. "Because they've built their ship the same way they've evolved," Laura explained. "Adaptable, redundant, capable of functioning even when damaged. They don't optimize. They prepare for failure and recovery." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had always believed that superior technology would prevail in any conflict, but the humans were challenging that fundamental assumption. "There's something else," Laura added, her voice lower. "According to my analysis of transmission patterns, the human ship is receiving constant updates from their planet. They're learning from each engagement, adapting their tactics in real time with input from their entire species." "You mean?" Mech began. "I mean we're not fighting one ship," Laura concluded. "We're fighting an entire planet of problem solvers who are working together to defeat us." As the alien fleet pulled back, Miller took the opportunity to check in with the remaining sections of the Titan. Section Charlie had successfully executed the final protocol, damaging 3 enemy vessels at the cost of their own. The remaining 3 sections, Alpha, Bravo, and Delta, were still operational, though heavily damaged. "Status report," Miller ordered. "Section Alpha at 43% power capacity," Reed reported. "Life support stable. Weapons at 38%. Bravo reports 51% power, but their maneuvering thrusters are failing," Lee added. "Delta is in worst shape, 29% power and multiple hull breaches." Miller considered their options. They couldn't win a prolonged battle, but they had already achieved more than anyone had thought possible. They had forced the mighty alien fleet to retreat and regroup. "New transmission coming in," Lee suddenly announced. It's not from Earth. And it's not on any hegemony frequency we've intercepted." "Put it through," Miller ordered cautiously. A voice spoke in accented but understandable English. "Human vessel, this is Lieutenant Dax of the Hegemony Scout Ship Observer. I wish to establish private communications." Miller exchanged surprised looks with her bridge crew. "This could be a trap," Reed warned. "Maybe," Miller agreed, "but let's hear what he has to say. Open a secure channel." As the connection established, Miller found herself face to face with an alien who might hold the key to ending this conflict before Earth faced total devastation. The battle had reached a turning point, but not the one either side had expected. Captain Kate Miller studied the alien face on her view screen. Lieutenant Dax looked similar to the other hegemony officers he had glimpsed during the battle, but something in his 4 eyes suggested a different perspective. "I'm listening," Miller said cautiously. "Why have you broken from your fleet?" "Because this conflict is based on a misunderstanding," Dax replied. "And because I have information that could save both our species from unnecessary bloodshed." Miller remained skeptical. the bloodshed began when your people declared war after an accident. Yes, Dax agreed, surprising her. An accident that our leaders interpreted as an attack. But I've analyzed the data from that encounter. Your warning shot wasn't meant to destroy our shuttle. It was the interaction between our shield technology and your energy pulse that caused the catastrophic reaction. Reed whispered from his station, "Captain, he could be trying to delay us while their fleet regroups." Miller nodded slightly to acknowledge Reed's concern. "If you genuinely want peace, Lieutenant, you're going to need to offer more than just talk." "I understand your suspicion," Dax said. "So I'll offer this. The Hegemony fleet has a weakness. The primary command network linking all vessels uses quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication. This network is shielded, but vulnerable to certain radiation frequencies." Miller leaned forward. "And you're willing to give us these frequencies. Why would you betray your own people?" Dax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a sigh. "Because what I've seen today has made me question everything. The Hegemony has conquered hundreds of worlds based on our technological superiority. We believe that advancement follows a predictable path, that all species develop in the same way we did." He gestured at his view screen, presumably showing the battle outside. "But you humans, you've taken a completely different evolutionary path. You adapt, improvise, and overcome in ways my people never considered possible. If we destroy you now, the galaxy loses something unique and valuable." Miller considered his words carefully. This could still be a trap, but something in Dax's manner suggested sincerity. "If we use this information," she said finally, "what do you want in return?" "A chance for real communication," Dax replied. "Help me convince my commander that this war is unnecessary." On the bridge of the Invincible, Fleet Commander Corrin was preparing for a renewed assault when his communications officer interrupted. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're requesting a direct communication with you." Corrin's first instinct was to refuse, but Science Officer Laura spoke up. "Commander, this could provide valuable insight into their thinking. I recommend accepting." After a moment's consideration, Corrin nodded. "Put them through." The main view screen activated, showing the human female in what appeared to be a damaged command center. Beside her, to Corrin's shock, was the unmistakable image of Lieutenant Dax. "What is the meaning of this?" Corrin demanded. "Lieutenant Dax, explain your presence on an enemy vessel." "I'm transmitting from my ship, Commander," Dax clarified. "I've established communication with the humans to correct a grave misunderstanding." The human captain spoke next. "I am Captain Kate Miller of Earth. The destruction of your diplomatic shuttle 3 months ago was an accident, a tragic result of incompatible technologies and translation errors." "Convenient excuses," Corrin replied dismissively. "Not excuses, Commander," Dax interjected. "I've analyzed the data from the incident. Their defensive system issued a warning pulse, not intended to destroy. It was the interaction between that pulse and our shield harmonics that caused the catastrophic failure." Laura moved to her console, checking Dax's claims against their own records. After a moment, she looked up in surprise. "He's right, Commander. The energy signature from the human vessel was too weak to have caused damage under normal circumstances. Our shields must have had a resonance vulnerability to their specific frequency." Corrin's mandibles clicked in agitation. Even if true, they still fired upon a diplomatic vessel. "A misunderstanding," Miller insisted. "Our automated defense system interpreted your scan as hostile. We had no intention of starting a war." Before Corrin could respond, Strategic Officer Mech interrupted. "Commander, our long-range sensors are detecting multiple new contacts emerging from Earth's moon. More human vessels." The view screen split to show several small ships approaching from the dark side of Earth's moon. They were nothing like the cobbled-together Titan. These were sleek, purpose-built warships. "What is this?" Corrin demanded. "More of your primitive vessels." Miller shook her head. "Not ours. We have no ships in that location." Dax looked equally confused. "Commander, Those aren't human ships. The design. They're Arcturian. The bridge fell silent as everyone processed this new development. The Arcturians were an advanced species from a neighboring sector, known for their neutrality in galactic affairs. A new transmission came through, and the face of an Arcturian diplomat appeared on screen. This is Envoy Krell of the Arcturian Confederation. We have been monitoring this conflict and wish to offer our services as mediators. Miller recovered from her surprise first. We welcome your assistance, Envoy Krell. Corinne was less enthusiastic. The hegemony does not require outside interference in its military operations. This is not interference, Commander, Krell replied calmly. This is an opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Our analysis confirms what Lieutenant Dax has discovered. The initial incident was indeed an unfortunate accident caused by technological incompatibility. Krell continued, furthermore, we have been observing human development with great interest. They represent a unique evolutionary path, one that could benefit the entire galactic community if given the chance to flourish. Corinne looked to his officers. Mech seemed ready to continue the fight, but Laura nodded in agreement with the Arcturians' assessment. Commander, Laura said quietly, we came here expecting an easy victory over primitives. Instead, we found a species unlike any we've encountered before. Perhaps it would be wise to reconsider our approach. 3 days later, Captain Miller stood in what remained of the Titan's primary section, now docked at Earth's orbital station. Engineers and repair crews worked around the clock to stabilize the damaged vessel, not to restore it for battle, but to preserve it as a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. A delegation had arrived from Earth to meet with representatives from both the hegemony and the Arcturian Confederation. Among them was Lieutenant Dax, whose decision to break ranks had helped prevent further bloodshed. Captain Miller, Dax greeted her. Approaching with what she had learned was a gesture of respect among his people. The peace talks are proceeding well. The Hegemony Council has agreed to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Miller nodded. It's a start. Though I suspect some of your military leaders aren't happy about it. They will adapt, Dax replied with what might have been humor. Perhaps not as quickly as humans, but they will adapt. They walked together through the battle-scarred corridors of the Titan, past repair teams and memorial markers for those who had fallen in the battle. The Arcturian envoy tells me they've been watching Earth for decades, Miller commented. Apparently, they had a bet going about whether humans would destroy themselves before reaching the stars. And now? Dax asked. Miller stopped at a viewport, looking out at Earth shining below and the stars beyond. Now they're betting on how quickly we'll change the galaxy. She turned to Dax. What do you think? The alien considered for a moment. I think the hegemony has much to learn from humans. Your technology is primitive, but your methods of applying it are revolutionary. Already, our engineers are studying the way you repurpose mining equipment into weapons. And we're eager to learn about your advanced technology, Miller replied. Imagine what humans could do with proper tools instead of cobbled-together mining equipment. Dax made a sound that Miller had come to recognize as laughter. That thought terrifies and excites my people in equal measure. As they continued their tour, Miller reflected on how close they had come to destruction. The Titan had been a desperate gamble, a symbol of humanity's refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. Now it would serve as the foundation for a new chapter in human history. 6 months later, Admiral Vex stood on the observation deck of a hegemony diplomatic vessel approaching Earth. After the Battle of Sol and the peace treaty that followed, he had been assigned to lead the official diplomatic mission to the human homeworld. On a nearby console, he reviewed the history of human warfare and adaptation. These strange bipeds had spent millennia fighting each other, developing increasingly creative ways to overcome challenges. Now that creativity was being channeled into peaceful cooperation and technological exchange. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Vex reflected on how one small misunderstanding had nearly led to the destruction of a species that now promised to change the galaxy forever. The hegemony had always believed that technological superiority determined a civilization's worth. The humans had proven that innovation and adaptability were equally important. "Admiral," his aide reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Space Control. Our escort is approaching." Outside, a new vessel moved into view, sleek and powerful, combining hegemony design principles with human ingenuity. It was the first ship built through the new cooperation between their species. Its name was prominently displayed across the hull. "Peace through understanding." A fitting name, Vexfot, for the beginning of a new era in galactic history.